Striker Scorpion 82 is now sponsored by Warhammer Combat Cards, a card battle game featuring your favourite Citadel miniatures from the 40k universe. Build your army decks, dominate opponents in player versus player action, collect and upgrade cards to fit your strategy, improve their power and unlock unique traits. Choose from all 40k factions, take part in campaigns based on iconic 40k battles, rise to the top of the leaderboard and win glory. Free to download and play, link is in the video description below or on the channel homepage, and by using the unique link it helps support the channel. Thanks and enjoy the game. Right, welcome to this review for the brand new Codex for the Necrons here from Games Workshop for 9th edition. So exciting times now. 9th edition's come along and then Games Workshop are now starting to release these brand new codexes for the various factions here. So Space Marines and Necrons the first to get their Codex books. So in this video, as I will review the Codex, we'll go through the entire Codex, sort of flick through for all of the pages. I want to focus in on the main rules changes, the new sort of rules that have been added in, and the newer units. So I'll focus in a lot on those as well. So I'll be interested in this as a Necron player. I've got a pretty substantial Necron collection, but then looking to expand that collection, looking at the newer models. Already have some of the newer models from the Indomitus box set, but there's some other new stuff here as well. So we'll look at that of interest here in this video. So a big thank you to Games Workshop. They sent me a copy ahead of time, which is very kind of them. You can check out gamingfigures.com. They are the channel sponsors here. They do Games Workshop stuff at a discounted rate, and a lot of other gaming systems available from them as well. So you can check out gamingfigures.com for discount 40k and more. So we'll take a flick through here. First thing to note with these is the change size with the codexes. So it looks something like this, just by way of comparison. A little bit wider, a little bit taller. So it's interesting, the slight change. And so I think Games Workshop have been doing the same size for codexes for a long time, but a slightly different format here. It's quite nice, quite sort of substantial sort of size. You certainly can feel the difference with the width, but that's just a side note. Just the usual standard production, very high quality production from Games Workshop. Not the biggest of books. Trying to find a page number. 120 odd pages by the looks of it. 120 pages exactly, yeah. So not huge, but roughly the same size as previous codexes for the Necrons. So here they are. It looks like we're already looking at a load of new artwork here. So introduction. To face the Necrons in battle is to stand against death incarnate. In search of immortality. So this is your background lore. Look at that. Wow. Relentless march. Yeah, so all the new units being incorporated in is the destroyers. God. Fighting against the Tout. Yeah, fantastic artwork. Beautiful piece of artwork. Eldritch Artifice. So I'll be looking at units, whether they're still viable. There's certainly going to be some change-ups, and certainly I would be interested in the new models. I mean, for the Indomitus box set, I actually like the Necron units more than the Space Marines. So many people are emphasising Space Marines at the moment, and the emphasis on them, but the Necron units are beautiful, beautiful models. If there's ever been a time to collect Necrons, it's now. And with those Indomitus box set models, they're beautiful models, all of them. Even the resculpts for the standard Necron warriors are fantastic. The Pharaoh's legions. The different dynasties here. The Zarakhan dynasty, I think it's pronounced that way. Saltek dynasty. Nefrit. Nefrek. Novok, Nihilek. Oh, I'll try my best here. Myriad dynasties, right? So you can customize your own. Interesting colour schemes going on here. Yeah, so starting to see that as well. Your ability to customize your own, which makes sense to do that. The Silent King, Disarm the Infinite, imitate the Stormlord. Yeah, so real dedicating a decent bit of space to all these characters here. Luminor Xerus, Oricana Diviner. I think my Necron is just going to see a real shake-up here because there's some amazing models on offer now. Yeah, this new Necron Warriors painted up and they look great. Great job from Games Workshop. Dynastic Panoply. New Monolith. There's the Wraiths. So it's Ophidian Destroyers, I think it's pronounced that way. Scorpec Destroyers, which I've used a lot and they've been pretty good. And there's some new ones here, the Hexmark Destroyer and the Lockhust Heavy Destroyer with Gore's Destructor. Be fascinated to see the rules for that as well. Flayed ones are back, and Games Workshop have done a great job. They look fantastic, and they're going to be in plastic. Brilliant job. Loads of new individual characters as well. The Royal Warden, Technomancer, the Necron Overlord, and how could you skip Zarek, the Silent King? And the model is it's incredible. Amazing, brilliant paint job. Beautiful paint job. Really, really nice. So, reminds me a little bit of the Warhammer before Age of Sigmar and sort of the super monsters that Games Workshop are creating, and the danger of perhaps these mega new models that are amazing, just wipe out everything else and everyone buys them. There's that danger, but I hope not, but we'll see that. I'm sure they're all pretty good. Yeah, and then there's this thing. I'm not so sure about this shard here. There's other stuff going on. There's something else in the distance here. Okay, just looking around to see what else is going on. There's some odd stuff in the distance over there. Okay, interesting. Right, so onto the rules then. So that's your background story. The first 48 pages, 47 pages dedicated to that. It's not over the top. It's, you know, it's a fair bit, but not too bad. And we're just really before halfway through the codex set. So onto your rules then. Battleforge rules then. Detachment abilities, stratagems, and then Cryptek arcana. Then army rules, that's warlord traits, relics, and powers of the Catan. Matched play rules, that's chapter approved rules. Interesting. Okay. So if you're playing a battle that instructs you to select secondary objectives, then you'll be able to choose from the additional Necron ones printed here. Right, so you're going to get ones that are unique to different factions. Fair enough. Interesting. Crusade rules, another a new sort of element being added in for more narrative campaign type rules. Your data sheets, war gear, your weapons profiles, points, values, and then your glossary of terms and reference. Okay, so the layouts. Little index here at the front, which is fair enough. Combat patrol, and then detachment abilities here. Okay, so this is this is the main sort of thing to focus in on, the new stuff I'll cover. So, detachment abilities. A Necron's detachment is one that only includes models with the Necron's keyword, excluding models from the unaligned keyword. So, Necron detachments gain the Royal Court and Dynastic Agents and Star Gods abilities. Necron units in Necron's detachments gain the Dynastic Codes, that's your different dynasties with their special rules. And then troops units in Necron's detachments gain the Objective Secured ability. This is described in the 40k core rulebook, so that's troops, that's just the usual stuff there for troops. So Dynastic Codes. All Necron units with this ability and all models in them gain a Dynastic Code. As long as every unit in the detachment is from the same dynasties, you've got to match it up. Same as you go, same kind of thing as Space Marines, you've got to have the same chapter in this, to match it all in, so everyone gets it. Dynastic Code they gain depends on which dynasty they're from, as shown to the following pages. If your dynasty code does not have an associated dynastic code, you must instead create a new dynastic code for them, as described on pages 54 to 55. So you can customise your own dynasty. This allows you to customise your Necrons. So, the Royal Court. When mustering your army, if it contains a Silent King model, that model must be selected as your warlord. So there you go, he has to be the warlord. Otherwise, if your army contains a Pharaoh model, that model must be selected as your warlord. Otherwise, if your army contains an Overlord model, that model must be selected as your warlord. Otherwise, if your army contains a lord model, that model must be selected as your warlord. If your army contains none of the listed models, select a warlord as normal. Right, so that's immediately going to mess up my current list because I have a Cryptek as my warlord, so I think there's going to be some changes around here. But it's fair enough, it's forcing you to fit in with the hierarchy and making an insignificant model the warlord, which kind of doesn't really make sense. So Necron's putting an emphasis on the royal court. So you have to take the highest ranked model as your warlord, which is fair enough. Fair enough. Dynastic codes as star gods. Dynastic agent and Catan shard units can be included in the Necron's detachment without preventing other units in that detachment from gaining a dynastic code. So you have similar rules to other factions. Dynastic agent and Catan shard units never gain a dynastic code. Yep, so that's fine. And then you can include a maximum of one Catan shard model in each Necron's detachment in your army. So there's a limitation with the Catan shards as well. But all seems fine, it's great. So, dynastic codes, which should you go for? This is the fixed ones, and there's a chance to create your own as well. So, Mefrit Dynasty Solar Fury. This is why I previously took add 3 to the range characteristic of ranged weapons, excluding pistols. That model has, the models with this code are equipped with. Each time model of this code makes a ranged attack that targets a unit within half range. The arm penetration of that attack is improved by 1. So yeah, that's great. That was the previous power. Right, so they're upping the speed here of the Necrons, plus 6 inches to the movement characteristic of models in that unit. If the unit translocates to the end of the turn, models in that unit cannot shoot those, there is that restriction. Each time a unit of this code falls back or translocates to the end of that phase, models in that unit can move across models and train as if they were not there. Interesting. And then when the protocol of the Sudden Storm becomes active for your army, every unit in your army, excluding Dynastic Agent, Catan Charge units, has this code. You can select both of that command protocol's directives instead of just one. So I take it they're all gonna, yeah. So they all have an ability there, and it lets you roll that out to multiple units. So, or take part of both of the abilities. Navok, Awakened by Murder. Add 1 to charge rolls made for units of this code. Okay, useful maybe if you're trying to go for sort of deep strikey type options. Each time a model of this code makes a melee attack, if that model's unit makes a charge move, was charged performed heroic intervention, improve the arm penetration characteristic of attacks by 1. That's pretty tasty actually. And then when the protocol of the Hungry Void becomes active, if every unit in your army has this code, and you can select both of the command protocol's directives instead of just one. Nihilak, Aggressively Territorial. Units of this code have the second objective secured ability. Right, so instead of troops, it's just the whole lot. If a model in such a unit already has this ability, that model counts as one additional model when determining control and objective marker. So your troops units are going to count as 2 per model. So really good, and very useful for 9th edition for trying to control objectives. Each time an attack with an arm penetration characteristic of -1 is allocated to a model of this code, if that model's ability is wholly within its controller's deployment zone, the attack with the arm penetration characteristic is 0 instead. So if you're -1, if you're inside your deployment zone, it'd be 0. So a bit of protection. The doubling up with the command protocols with them. Then Zerakan, Uncanny Artificers. Each time model of this code would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, roll 1d6, and a 5+, the wound is not lost, so 5+, feel no pain against mortal wounds. Okay, and then each time a unit of this code is selected to shoot or fight, you can reroll 1 wound roll when making that unit's attacks. Right, okay, and then the doubling up with the protocol, which is the Undying Legions. I still like your Mefrit Dynasty here. It's pretty much as it was before, but I'm getting an extra 3-inch range. It's quite easy to remember, and it's pretty useful. Sautek, Relentless Advance. Each time morale test is taken for a unit of this code, you can reroll the test. Rerolling morale, right. Instead of following the normal rules for rapid fire weapons, models of this code shooting rapid fire weapons make double the number of attacks if the shooting model's target is within 18. Ooh. Oh well, instead of 12. I guess it's just not that amazing. Don't attacks. It's the normal with rapid fire weapons. Okay, so sounds, yeah, it's not actually that amazing, I don't think. Okay. Yeah, it's not utterly amazing, any of these really. They're sort of helpful, but nothing, you know, no real deal breaker going on here. I still like Solar Fury. Extra AP -1. Okay, so Ancient Dynasties then. Okay, so if your chosen dynasty does not have an associated dynastic code, you must instead create their dynastic code by selecting one code of the dynastic traditions listed below. Unless you select the Vassal Kingdom dynastic code, you can also select an additional code from the Circumstances of Awakening list opposite. Right, so as long as you don't go for Vassal Kingdoms, this one, as long as you don't go for that one, you can select any one of these and then one of the bonus ones over here as well. We'll see what this works out as. I could be tempted to shift to making up my own dynasty here. We'll see. Alright, so here we go. Sure, there must be some golden nuggets in here. So, Eternal Conquerors. Units of this code have the objective secured ability. If a model in such a unit already has this ability, that unit counts as having one additional. Right, so you get that's mentioned earlier on, but everyone counts as objective secured. That's already quite appealing. Okay, right. Pitiless Hunters. Depending on what extra bonus you can get across here. Pitiless Hunters. Instead of following the normal rules for rapid fire weapons, model this code. Shooting rapid fire weapons make double the number of attacks. If either the shooting model's targets within half the weapon's range, or if the shooting model is infantry and it remains stationary in your previous movement phase, similar to like a Space Marine rule. If you sit still and you're infantry, you'll fire at your normal range and you'll get the double shooting. That's pretty good as well. Superior Artisans. Each time a unit of this code is selected to shoot or fight, you can reroll 1 wound roll making this unit's attacks. It's okay. Could be maybe on a smaller unit with a high caliber weapon. That could be very useful. Rad Reeved. Units of this code have the following ability. Rad Reeved Aura. While an enemy unit, excluding vehicle units, is within an inch of this unit, subtract 1 of the toughness characteristic of models in the enemy unit. So -1 to toughness if you're close enough to the enemy. Okay, and then Immovable Phalanx. Each time an attack with a damage characteristic of 1 is allocated to an infantry model with this code, unless that model's unit made a normal move, advanced or fell back this battle round, add 1 to any armour saving throws taken against that attack. Okay, so if you sit still, it's +1 to your armour save for infantry, and it's damage 1. Quite restricted, and it forces you to sit still. Not always a good idea in 9th edition, so not sure about that one. Unyielding. Models with this code have a 6+ invuln save. Okay, contemptuous of the codes. So what I'm seeing here at the moment is nothing too scary going on here at the moment, which is a good sign. I think Games Workshop haven't made. Oh, it's a bit early here. There could be some broken stuff to come, but so far it seems sensible enough. Quite tame, actually. I would say it's not too scary. Contemptuous of the codes. Each time model this code makes an attack against a character unit, you can add 1 to that unit's hit roll. But only against characters. The Unmerciful Horde. Each time morale test is taken for that unit, you can reroll the test. Rerolling morale. That's scary. And morale's usually pretty good for the Necrons anyway. Masters of the Marshal. Each time a unit of this code is selected to shoot or fight, you can reroll 1 hit roll, making this unit's attacks pretty tame. Butchers, add 1 to charge rolls made of units of this code. Okay, and then Severed. A unit of this code benefits from the selected directive of your army's active command protocol whilst it's within 9 inches of a friendly Necron's character instead of 6. Yeah, and then Vassal Kingdom. This is the one that if you take this, you can't take one of the bonuses. Select one of the following dynasties and use the dynastic code of that dynasty as listed on page 52-53. Nefric, Nerlak, Novok, Saltik, or Zarakan. Right, okay, so that's that one. Right, so Circumstances of Awakening. So you're taking one of these, excluding Vassal Kingdom, and then you can add one of these on top. So the Ancient Stir. +1 to move characteristic canoptic models with this code. Each time a canoptic unit of this code makes a piling move or consolidate move. So long as each model in that unit ends its move closest to the closest enemy model, you can move each model in that unit up to 4 inches instead of 3. Okay, some minor tweaks going on here. Arise against the interlopers. Each time model this code makes a melee attack against an infantry or bike unit, a modified hit roll of a 6 automatically wounds the target. Healthy Paranoia. Add 3 inches to the range characteristic of range weapons, excluding pistols that models with this code are equipped with. Can you double that up with the other one that gives you... Oh, no, that's back here. That's back here for Mefrit. Okay. Yes, so... Okay. So, Relentlessly Expansionist. At the start of the first battle round before the first turn begins, units of this code can make a normal move up to 6 inches. That sounds pretty good. That one's pretty cool. And then Isolationists. Each time model this code makes an attack with a rapid fire weapon that targets a unit within 12 inches, add 1 to the strength characteristic of that attack. That sounds pretty good. That's not bad at all. And then Warrior Nobles. Each time a noble model this code makes a melee attack, reroll hit rolls of 1, reroll a hit roll of 1, reroll a wound roll of 1. That one's not too bad. And then Interplanetary Invaders. Sounds like a computer game. Vehicle units of this code are eligible to shoot in a turn in which they fell back, but if they do so, at the end of the turn, each time model in that unit makes a ranged attack, subtract 1 from the attack's hit roll. That's vehicle units. Yeah, that is useful though. It's pretty big in 9th edition, tapping out vehicles, even ones that can fly, and stopping them from shooting, so that's quite useful. Or limiting their shooting, sort of forces them to shoot into close combat. Vehicle models of this code do not suffer the penalty to hit rolls incurred for firing heavy weapons, while enemy units are within engagement range of that unit, right? So that one's pretty useful for vehicles. Interesting one. Okay, so that's the dynasties then. Quite tame, quite sensible. Now, okay, stratagems. What a big layout change. It's different to the other codexes. Okay, interesting. 4 pages. And we'll go through all of these. This is a big part of the codex, stratagems, and then dynastic stratagems, ones that are specific to your 6 fixed dynasties. Okay. So there's different types of stratagem going on here. There's some big changes taking place here. So you've got Necrons, these green ones is Necrons battle tactic stratagems. Then you've got Necrons epic deed stratagems, that's the ones in brown. Then 9th edition's getting progressively more complicated. Necrons requisition stratagems, that's those 3 in green, darker green. Then in grey here it's Necron's strategic ploy stratagems. Here, and here, so a lot of those. And then Necron's war gear stratagems. Well, interesting. It's the light grey, that's running all the way through to here. And then, so some of these, see the different colours for these fixed dynasties. Some of them are getting battle tactic stratagems, others are getting war gear upgrades and so on. So it sounds okay. Fair enough. It's going to be fascinating reading these to see what's remained, if anything's remained, and to see what new ones there are and what stratagems. See if any of these are any good. See if they're all tame. There could be some powerful ones. We'll see what we come up with. So, dimensional corridors. So, units use this stratagem at the start of movement phase. Select one dynasty core infantry unit from your army that's on the battlefield. Remove that unit from the battlefield in the reinforcement step of this phase. Set that unit up back on the battlefield anywhere that's held within 3 inches of a friendly dynasty monolith model and more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So it's a relocate. But it's a relocate next to a monolith. Yeah, it's within 3 inches of a monolith and more than 9 inches away from enemy models. So you've got to have a monolith to use that one. Dimensional corridor. The techno Oracular Targeting. One command point for that one, by the way, one command point for this one. So use this stratagem in shooting phase before making the wound roll for an attack made by Necron's model from your army. Do not make a wound roll for that attack. It automatically wounds the target. That's an attack made by Necron's model in your army. Interesting. Extermination Protocols. Sounds familiar. It's 2 command points. Use this stratagem in your shooting phase when a Lockhust Destroyers or Lockhust Heavy Destroyers unit for your army is selected to shoot. At the end of the phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, you can re-roll the wound roll. Right, so you've got to use it on the new models. And oh no, Lockhust Destroyers. I guess that's the new name for regular destroyers. And then the Lockhust Heavy Destroyers, that's the new models. So you're getting to re-roll your wounds. Not hit and wound rolls. And you can re-roll the wound roll, so it's not failed wound rolls. So that bit's improved, but you're not getting your re-roll hits. So it's still there, but it's doubled in points cost. It's 2 command points now, so the Games Workshop have balanced that out, and it's just merged into the other stratagems as just one that's not. It was previously one of the most golden nuggets the Necrons had. 1 command point to re-roll hit rolls and wound rolls with destroyers, but it seems to have gone. Storm of Flensing Blades. Use this stratagem at the end of the fight phase. Select one Flayed Ones unit from your army that's within engagement range of enemy units. The unit can fight again. That is excellent. Okay, that's 2 command points. Fractal Targeting. 1 command point. Use this stratagem in the shooting phase. Select one Tomb Blade unit from your army. To the end of the phase, all rapid fire weapons that models in the unit are equipped with are treated as being Assault 2. Okay, and then models in that unit do not suffer the penalty to hit rolls incurred for firing assault weapons in the same turn that they advanced. So it helps them out a little bit. Judgment of the Triarch. 1 command point. Use a stratagem in shooting phase. Select a Triarch. When a Triarch unit is selected to shoot, or in the fight phase, when a Triarch unit is selected to fight, at the end of that phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, it's +1 to the attack's hit roll. So 3's to hit, 2's to hit. That's there. It's like a previous one. Eternal Protectors. Use a stratagem in the fight phase. Select a Dynasty Lichguard unit from your army. To the end of that phase, whilst the unit is within 3 inches of a Dynasty Noble model, add 1 to attacks characteristic of models in that unit. So an extra attack whilst you're trying to protect a Noble. That's 1 command point for your Lichguard. And that's pretty useful. Resurrection Protocols next. This is on to Epic Deeds. 1 command point. Use a stratagem in any phase. When a Necron's Infantry Noble or Necron's Infantry Cryptek model from your army is destroyed, you can choose to roll 1d6 at the end of the phase instead of using any rolls that are triggered when that model is destroyed. For example, Surrogate Host's ability. If you do so, they roll on a 4+. Set the model back up on the battlefield as close as possible to where it was destroyed and more than 1 inch away from enemy models, with D3 wounds remaining. This stratagem cannot be used to set the same model back up more than once per battle. So that's your 4+ Resurrect character is there. But you get D3 wounds remaining. I think it was just 1 previously. Very useful, that one. So there's some good stratagems have remained here for the Necrons, looking pretty good. Strange Echoes. Use this stratagem in your command phase. This is 1 command point. Use select 1 Catan Shard model from your army. Select one of the powers from the powers of the Catan that model does not know. The selected power replaces one of the powers of the Catan that the model does no. Okay, just swapping powers around. The Deathless Arise. 1 command point. Use the stratagem in your command phase. Select 1 Technomancer model from your army. To the end of the phase, that model can use its Rites of Reanimation ability 1 additional time. Yeah, I'm sure that's useful enough. Dimensional Destabilization. So 2 command points or 1 command point. Use a stratagem at the end of the movement phase. When the Catan Shard model from your army has used a power of the Catan, roll 1d6. That model can immediately use the corresponding power for the powers of the Catan, page 68. Even if it has already been used this turn. If that model has the Titanic keyword, it costs you 2 command points instead of 1. Entropic Strike. Now, this now costs 2 command points. Use the stratagem in the fight phase when a Catan Shard model from your army is selected to fight. At the end of the phase, each time melee attack is made by that model, invuln saving throws cannot be taken against that attack. So just ignoring invuns, and that's pretty nasty. Hand of the Pharaon, 2 command points. This is Requisition Stratagems. Use this stratagem before the battle when you're mustering your army. if your army does not contain a model with the Pharaon keyword, select one Necron's Overlord model from your army, excluding named characters. That model gains the Pharaon keyword. And in your command phase, it can use its My Will Be Done ability one additional time. You can only use the stratagem once. So that's an upgrade there for an Overlord. Dynastic Heirlooms. So use a stratagem for the battle. This is your extra relics, I think. Yep, 1 command point. So use a stratagem for the battle when mustering your army. If your warlord has the Necrons keyword, select one Necrons character model, excluding Catan shards, and give them a relic. This must be a relic they can have. Each relic in your army must be unique, and you cannot use a stratagem to give a model 2 relics. You can only use a stratagem once, unless you're playing a strike force battle, in which case you can use a stratagem twice, or an onslaught battle, in which case you can use it 3 times. Fair enough. So that's been correct. I guess that's the way it's going to go for all the codexes now. Get 1 relic. Unless it's a strike force, which is, like our game's 2,000 points, in which case you are allowed to use a stratagem twice. You're still going to pay for it each time, but lets you take 2 relics. Or 3 if you're going to go up to onslaught size games. Fair enough, that's fine, that sounds good. A rarefied nobility. Use a stratagem as 1 command point. Use a stratagem before the battle when you're mustering your army. If your warlord has the Necrons keyword, select one Necrons character model, excluding Catan shard models, in your army. Determine 1 warlord trait for that model, so this is an extra warlord trait. That model is only regarded as your warlord for the purposes of that warlord trait. Each warlord trait in your army must be unique. If randomly generated, reroll duplicates, and you cannot use a stratagem to give a model 2 warlord traits. You can use a stratagem once, unless you're playing same role. Strike force, you get 2, and onslaught 3. Only once. So for strike force size games, then you could be looking at your normal warlord trait. Yeah. And then you could have a potentially of up to 2 more warlord traits. So it's 3 in total. The original 1, then plus the extra 2, I think. Next, enslaved protectors. This is the strategic ploy stratagem. Use a stratagem in your opponent's charge phase. Select one Canoptic unit from your army. Until the end of the phase, that unit is eligible to perform heroic interventions as if it were a character. Wow, pretty good actually. So you've got your Necron Wraiths, swing them in heroic intervention style. There's only 1 command point, pretty good. Stellar Alignment Protocol. It's 2 or 1 command points. Use a stratagem in the command phase. Select one Necron's vehicle model from your army that has a wounds characteristic of 10 or more, like a monolith. Until the start of your next command phase, that model is considered to have its 4 wounds remaining for the purpose of determining what characteristics on its profile to use. If that model has the Titanic keyword, the stratagem costs 2 command points, otherwise it's 1. And that's very useful. Yep. Pretty useful. So there's some good stratagems here for Necrons. Yeah, they're pretty good. Reanimation prioritization, 2 command points. Use a stratagem in your opponent's shooting phase. When a Necron's unit from your army is selected as the target of an attack, select one Canoptic Reanimator model from your army that is within 6 inches of visible to the targeted unit. That model can use its Nanoscarab Reanimation Beam ability as if it were your command phase. Selecting the target unit to be healed by its Reanimation Beam. Any unit that was already being healed by that model's Reanimation Beam is no longer considered to be healed by it. Right, so you're able to switch out, you allocate the beam, then there's that flexibility to reallocate it. Definitely useful. Burrowing Nightmares, 1 command point. Use a stratagem at the start of the movement phase. Select one Ophidian Destroyer's unit from your army that is on the battlefield. Remove that unit from the battlefield. In the reinforcement step in your next movement phase, you can set the unit back up on the battlefield, anyone more than 9 inches away from enemy models. If the battle ends and that unit is not on the battlefield, it is destroyed. So you can remove them and then redeploy. Deep strike. So useful enough, 1 command point. Self-destruction. There's a lot of this redeploy stuff going on. For 9th edition objectives all over the table. The ability to relocate is very useful, and the ability to pick up units that are already on the board and shift them across the table. Very useful. So we're starting to see that now as multiple options for that already here with the Necrons, no doubt for the other factions as well. So there is a bit of a layout change going on here. We haven't looked at any units yet, and we're on to stratagems already, usually there at the back, but not it makes too much difference. So self-destruction, this could be for the scarabs yet. Use the stratagem in the fight phase when a scarab unit, swarms unit from your army is selected to fight. Select one model in that unit. After that unit has finished piling in, you can select one enemy unit with an engagement range of that model. Roll a d6. On a 2 to 5, the enemy unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. On a 6, it takes 3 mortal wounds. And the scarab swarm model is then destroyed. Yeah, useful enough. That's useful enough. Prismatic Dimensional Breach. Use a stratagem, it's 1 command point. Use a stratagem in the reinforcement step of your movement phase. Select one. Yeah, you're seeing more use of the reinforcement step here with multiple stratagems. But use a stratagem in the reinforcement step of your movement phase. Select one Dynasty core unit from your army that is on the strategic reserves, and then select one friendly Dynasty Knight Scythe or Dynasty Monolith model in your that is on the battlefield. Set that core unit up anywhere on the battlefield that is wholly within 3 inches of that Knight Scythe or Monolith model, and not within engagement range of any enemy models. This stratagem cannot be used in the first battle round. Okay, so you're bringing a unit in from reserve with that. Okay, Shadows of Drazak, 1 command point. Use this stratagem in any phase when a flayed one's unit for an army is selected as the target of an attack. To the end of that phase, each time an attack is made against the unit, subtract 1 from the attack's hit roll. So another stratagem to help out the flayed ones. Aetheric Interception, 1 command point. Use this stratagem in the reinforcement step of your opponent's movement phase. After an enemy unit has been set up on the battlefield, select one Hyperspace Hunter unit from your army that is either on the battlefield, in a hyperspace dimension, or in strategic reserves. So, if that Hyperspace Hunter unit is in hyperspace dimension or in strategic reserves, set it up anywhere on the battlefield that is within 18 inches of an enemy unit and more than 9 inches away from enemy models. That hyperspace hunter unit can, at the end of that phase, shoot as if it were a shooting phase, but until the end of the phase it can only target the enemy unit that was just set up on the battlefield, and only if that enemy unit is an eligible target for the attack. So the enemy unit deploys and then you bring them in and try and ambush them with the hyperspace hunter unit. Quite cool. 1 command point for that one. So Relentless Onslaught next. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase. When a core infantry unit from your army is selected to shoot, at the end of the phase, each time model that unit makes an attack with a rapid fire weapon, a modified hit roll of a 6 scores an additional hit. So it's okay. Curse of the Pharaon, 3 command points or 1 command point. Use a stratagem in any phase when a Necron's vehicle model from your army is destroyed. Do not roll to see if that model explodes, it's an auto-explode. If it's a Titanic keyword, the stratagem costs you 3 command points. Yeah, auto-explodes useful if you can remember it just at the right point. It's easy just to forget it in the heat of the moment, but it's available. Atavistic Instigation. So, you know, you could have a busted ghost arc, sort of a couple of wounds left, just slowly float it into the enemy ranks and detonate it. But it has to be when it's destroyed. I'm sure the enemy's just going to move away, but you'd have to maybe try and catch the opponent out with that as well. They don't remember that you have that one. Atavistic Instigation. Use the stratagem in your shooting phase when a Doom Scythe model from your army is selected to shoot. After you select the target unit for that model's heavy death ray, select one enemy unit within 3 inches of that target. You can select that target itself if you wish. As that enemy unit can either brace or duck for cover. If the unit braces and it's not a vehicle or monster unit, it suffers D3 mortal wounds. If the unit ducks for cover, then until the end of the turn, subtract 1 from the attack's characteristic or models in that unit, and it can't fire Overwatch or set to defend. So that's okay. Okay, interesting. And then Revenge of the Doomstalker, 2 command points. Use the stratagem in any phase when a Dynasty character unit from your army is destroyed by an enemy unit. Select one friendly Dynasty Canoptic Doomstalker model from your army At the end of the phase, the Cryptek Doomstalker model can shoot as if it were the shooting phase, but it can only target the enemy unit and only if that enemy unit is an eligible target for an attack. To the end of the battle, each time a Cryptek Doomstalker model makes an attack that targets that enemy unit, +1 to that attack's hit roll. So some help there for the Cryptek Doomstalker model. Disruption fields. We're on to war gear stratagems now. This is interesting. Upgrading your war gear. So use a stratagem. Disruption fields, 1 command point. Use a stratagem in the fight phase. The Necron's core unit from your army is selected to fight. And to the end of that phase, add 1 to the strength characteristic of models in that unit. It does happen sort of during the game, not upgrading your war gear before the battle starts. Disintegration capacitors, 1 command point. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase when the Necron's unit from your army is selected to shoot. To the end of that phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack with a gauze weapon, unmodified hit roll of a 6 automatically wounds the target. So 6 is pop auto wounds. So yeah, it's useful. Not too bad, yeah, useful enough. Add malevolent arcing. 1 command point. Use a stratagem in shooting phase. When Necron's model from your army targets an enemy unit with a Tesla weapon. After making that weapon's attacks, roll 1d6 for each other unit within 6 inches of the enemy unit on a 4+. The unit being rolled for suffers a mortal wound. Add whirling onslaught. 1 command point. Use a stratagem in any phase. When a Cryptek Destroyers or Cryptek Lord unit from your army is selected as the target of an attack. At the end of that phase, each time an attack is made against that unit, subtract 1 for the attack's wound roll. -1 to wound rolls against them. So, it's okay. And then quantum deflection. Use a stratagem in any phase when Necron's quantum shielding unit from your army is selected as the target of an attack. At the end of that phase, models in that unit have a 4+ invuln save. Yeah, okay. Solar Pulse. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase. Select 1 enemy unit. At the end of that phase, each time a model with a Necron's unit from your army makes a ranged attack against that enemy unit, the target does not receive the benefit of cover for that attack. So that's that one. And then Reconstitution Protocols. Use the stratagem in your command phase. Select 1 Ghost Arc unit from your army. To the end of that phase, each time that unit uses its repair barge ability, you can set up to D6 destroy models back on the battlefield instead of D3. So a bit of help just there. So yeah, they seem okay. There's some pretty good ones in there, some pretty average ones, and ones you'd think whether it's worth spending a command point on. But it seems they all seem okay. Talent for Annihilation, and this is Mephrit Dynasty. Same wording as before. Use a stratagem in shooting phase and the Mephrit unit from your army selected to shoot. At the end of that phase, each time model in that unit makes an attack, an unmodified wound roll of a 6 inflicts a mortal wound on the target in addition to any normal damage. A maximum of 3 mortal wounds can be inflicted per phase via this stratagem. Right, so they've capped it. Tragic. Oh, no, they've capped it at 3. Oh, boy. Why? That's a shame. Oh, dear. Okay, so that looked really good until that bit in brackets at the end. They've capped it. Maximum of 3 mortal wounds can be inflicted per phase with this stratagem, but other than that, it's actually really good. Translocation Crypt, then 1 command point for Nethrek. Use this stratagem before the battle when declaring reserves and transports. If you're playing a mission without this step, use this stratagem during deployment instead. Select 1 Nethrek unit, excluding vehicle monster units from your army. That unit gains the dimensional translocation ability on page 80. Reclaim a Lost Empire. This is Nihilak Strategic Ploy. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase. Select 1 Nihilak infantry unit from your army that is currently performing an action. The unit can still shoot without the action failing. So, useful enough. Blood Rights. This is the Novok. Use a strat 1 command point. They're all 1 command point, apart from Methodical Destruction for Sautek. So, 1 command point here. Use a stratagem in the fight phase when a Novok unit from your army is selected to fight. To the end of that phase, add 1 to the attack's characteristic of models in the unit. That's useful. Methodical Destruction, then 2 command points. Use a stratagem in your shooting phase. After a Sautek unit from your army is finished making its attacks, select 1 enemy unit that was targeted by an attack made by a model in that unit this phase. At the end of the phase, each time an attack is made by a model in another friendly Sautek unit, against the enemy unit. Add 1 to attack's hit roll. And then Empiric Damping. 1 command point. This is Zarikan Wargear stratagem. Use the stratagem in your opponent's psychic phase when an enemy psyker attempts to manifest a psychic power within 18 inches of a Zarikan unit from your army. Roll 1d6 on a 4+. The psychic power is denied, so it just blocks it on a 4+. Alright, so that's your stratagems. So Cryptek Arcana next. So if your army's battle forge includes any Necrons detachments, excluding auxiliary support, super heavy auxiliary and fortification network detachments, then when you're mustering your army you can upgrade any of the Cryptek models in your army by giving them an item of Cryptek Arcana, chosen from those presented here. Each time you give a Cryptek model an item of Cryptek Arcana, its power rating is increased by the amount shown in the table opposite. Oh dear. No, you've got to pay points. Oh no. Right. Okay. Each time you give Cryptek, if you're playing a match play game or a game that uses a points limit, then the points value of that model is also increased by the amount shown on the same table. Make a note. On your army roster, each time you give a Cryptek model an item of Arcana. Name characters can't be given Cryptek Arcana. Each Cryptek model can only have one item. An army or a crusade force cannot include the same item of Cryptek Arcana more than once. Cryptek Arcana are not considered to be relics for any rules purposes. This means a Cryptek model can be equipped with both a relic and an item of Arcana as well. So really, we're going to go through these. We've got to pay points for them, or you've got to pay power ratings for them here. So I'll call them out for you, so I'll give you an idea of what the kind of points costs here. But they're all sort of between 15 points all the way up to 30. So there's a lot at 20. So that gives you a kind of idea. You're paying a bit here for these. So I have a Cryptek, and I think there's some resculpts going on with them, and they look, incredible. So this is what you can sort of customize them here with some Arcana. So the Atavindicator, a Psychomancer model only. At the end of your movement phase, select one enemy unit, excluding vehicle units within 18 of the bear, and roll 3d6. If the total is equal to or greater than the enemy's leadership characteristic, it suffers d3 mortal wounds. And to have that, it will cost you 25 points. The Cryptogeometric Adjuster. At the start of your opponent's shooting phase, you can select one enemy unit that is within 12 inches and visible to the bearer. At the end of that phase, each time a model in that unit makes an attack, it subtract 1 for the attack's hit roll. And that will cost you 15 points. No, it will not, sorry. Let's get this right here. It will cost you 15. Yeah, sorry, it's they've done this in alphabetical. This one's not alphabetical. The Photonic Transsubjector. Once per turn, the first time a saving throw is failed for the bearer, the damage characteristic of that attack is changed to 0. That's interesting one, and that will cost probably quite expensive. It's 20 points for that one. Quite costly. Dimensional Sanctum. The bearer gains the dimensional translocation ability on page 80, and that will cost you dimensional 15 points. The Cortical Subjugator Scarabs. Once per battle at the start of the heroic intervention step of your opponent's charge phase, you can select one friendly dynasty unit within 6 inches of the bearer. Unless that unit is within engagement range of enemy units, it can perform a heroic intervention as if it were a character. That's quite useful. And that is 15 points. The Countertemporal Nanomines. Chronomancer model only. In your movement phase, you can select one enemy unit within 18 inches of the bearer to the start of your next turn. Halve advanced rolls and charge rolls made for that unit. And that is 30 points for that one. The Failsafe, if it protects your line though, your gun line or whatever, it could be very useful. A Failsafe Overcharger. Technomancer model only. In your command phase, you can select one friendly canoptic unit within 9 inches of the bearer to the start of your next command phase. Add one to attacks characteristic models in that unit. If that unit is a monster or vehicle, add D3 to attacks characteristic or models in that unit instead of 1. That's pretty useful, actually. 30 points, though. Thought it would be expensive. Hypermaterial Ablator. In your command phase, you can select one friendly dynastic core or dynastic canoptic unit within 9 inches of the bearer. To the start of your next command phase, each time a ranged attack is made against that unit, if the attacker is more than 12 inches away, then the unit you selected is treated as having the benefits of light cover. Right, so that's specific about the cover, so it's +1 to your armor save, I believe. 25 points. If you're going to take these, you've got to remember to use them during a game. Otherwise it's wasted points and opportunities. Quantum Orb. A Plasmancer model only. Once per battle in your command phase, the bearer can activate this item of Arcana. If it does, select one point on the battlefield, anywhere within 24 inches of the bearer, and place a marker at that point. At the start of your next command phase, roll 1d6 for each unit within 6 inches of the centre of that marker, subtracting 1 from the unit if the unit being rolled for is a character. On a 4 to 5, that unit suffers D3 mortal wounds. On a 6, that unit suffers 3 mortal wounds. The marker is then removed. It's like a orbital strike here, but it's a quantum orb. And the quantum orb will cost you 20 points. It's once per battle, yeah. It's Metallodermal Tesla Weave. They're quite a mouthful, some of these titles. At the end of your charge step of your opponent's charge phase, you can select one enemy unit that finished a charge move within 6 inches of the bearer of this phase. Roll 1d6 on a 2+. The enemy unit takes D3 mortal wounds. And that is 20 points for that one. The Phylactine Hive. Technomancer model only. Once per battle, when the bearer uses its rights of reanimation ability, you can select one friendly Dynasty Canoptic, Dynasty Destroyer Cult, or Triarch Praetorian unit from your army. Unit to be affected by that ability instead of one friendly Dynasty Core unit. So it opens out the possibilities of those that can benefit from that. Phylactine Hive. And that will cost 20 points. And the Prismatic Obfuscatron. Unless the bearer is the closest eligible target, any models cannot target it with ranged attacks. Useful. That's very useful. So you can camp out as a character on your own, not be picked off. The new rules look out, sir. So that one's useful enough. That one's very helpful actually. And Prismatic Obfuscation. Yeah, it's typical. One that's the hardest for me to pronounce. It's probably the best one. And it's going to cost you... That was really helpful actually, very tactically useful. 20 points. Game changer potentially though. Really good. Okay, right, next then. On to... So those are okay. It's, I guess you're paying points for them, because it's not relics or warlord traits, so fair enough. And there's some options to sort of customise your Cryptek. You're paying for war gear basically, so fair enough. Though it's quite expensive, some of them, perhaps a few of them quite useful. So, warlord traits then. Necron's warlord traits. If you determine a warlord trait for Necron's character model, replace in all instances the dynastic keyword and their warlord trait, if any, with the name of the dynasty of your character is from. So, I'll just call these out here. There's Immortal Pride. This one I usually take. It's probably changed. So, Enduring Will, number 1. Enduring Will, yeah. Each time an attack is allocated to this warlord, subtract 1 for the damage characteristic of that attack to a minimum of 1. So -1 damage to attacks coming through. Yeah, helpful enough. Yeah, definitely useful enough. Eternal Madness. Each time this warlord makes a melee attack, you can reroll the wound roll. Reroll wounds is pretty good. These are pretty cool. Immortal Pride. Each time this warlord would lose a wound as a result of a mortal wound, it's a 5+ for no pain. And this warlord has the following ability. Immortal Pride, Aura. On a friendly dynasty core unit within 6 inches of this model, each time a combat attrition test is taken for that unit, ignore any or all modifiers. No, it used to be auto pass morale. Now it's just rubbish. It's not very good at all. It's just ignoring modifiers. Okay. Well, yeah, it's okay. So I think I might be on the search for a new warlord trait here. I mean, rerolling wounds, great. -1 damage, great. Thrall of the Silent King. Add 3 inches to the range characteristic of warlord's aura abilities to maximum 9 inches. In addition, when this warlord uses its My Will Be Done, the Lord's Will, or adaptive strategy abilities, you can select one friendly dynasty core unit within 12 inches of this warlord instead of 9. So that sounds alright as well. Implacable Conqueror. While a friendly dynasty core unit is within 6 inches of this warlord, you can reroll charge rolls. I can imagine that being very, very useful, depending how you're using Necrons and how you're using the warlord. And then the last one, number 6, Honourable Combatant. In the fight phase, each time this warlord is selected to fight, you can engage in honourable combat. If it does, select one enemy character unit. To the end of that phase, add 2 to the attacks characteristic of this warlord, but it can only make attacks that target that enemy character unit. But yeah, it's useful enough. So dynastic warlord traits then for the 6 fixed dynasties. Mefrit then, Merciless Tyrant. Add 1 to the strength attacks characteristic of this warlord, pretty good. Nefrek, Skin of Living Gold. Each time an attack is made against this warlord, subtract 1 from the attacker's hit roll. Nihlak, Precognitive Strike. At the start of the fight phase, if this warlord is within engagement range of any models, you can fight first that phase. Navok, Blood-Fueled Fury. Each time this warlord makes a melee attack, unmodified wound roll of a 6 inflicts a mortal wound on the target in addition to any normal damage. Quite difficult to get that. Sautek, Hyperlogical Strategist. Whilst this warlord is on the battlefield, each time you spend a command point to use a stratagem, you can roll 1d6 and a 5+, that command point is refunded. Yeah, that's pretty good. And then Zarakhan, the Triarch's Will. If your warlord has this warlord trait, then when assigning command protocols for the battle, page 81, you can select 4 command protocols instead of 5, and then when one of those command protocols can be assigned to 2 battlefield rounds instead of 1. Okay. So then the name characters here. The Silent King has the Triarch's Will. Imotek Stormlord has Hyperlogical Strategist. Nemazar's Zandrek has Eternal Madness. Vargard Oberon, Honourable Combatants, makes sense. Luminar Xeris, Enduring Will. Orikan the Diviner, Immortal Pride. Anrakia the Traveller, Implacable Conqueror, and then Drasan the Infinite has Enduring Will. Okay. So now we're on to relics here for the Necrons. Right, so if his army is led by Necron warlords, you can, when mustering your army, give one of the following relics to it, of the Aeons to Necron's character model from your army. Named characters and Katana shards can't take the relics. When a model in your army is given a relic of the Aeons, replace all instances of the dynastic keyword on that relic's rules, if any, with the name of the dynasty, and so on. When you're swapping your war gear around, you've got to remember to pay the points to the original weapon before you, even if you swap it out for a piece of, or even if you swap it out for a relic. So, Orb of Eternity. Model with a Resurrection Orb only. This relic replaces a Resurrection Orb. Once per battle in your command phase, the bearer can use this relic. If it does, select one friendly dynasty unit within 6 inches of the bearer that is not on its starting strength and has not had its reanimation protocols enacted this phase. That unit's reanimation protocols are enacted, and every destroyed Monarch unit begins to reassemble. Each time a reanimation protocol roll is made for those reanimation protocols, add 1 to the result. Nano Scarab Casket. Each time the bearer uses its living metal ability, it regains an additional lost wound. Yeah, could be helpful enough if you've got a character that really likes to get stuck into close combat. Gauntlet of the Conflagrator. It's range 12, pistol 1, all -- here for strength, AP and damage. Each time an attack is made with this weapon, that attack automatically hits target. Instead of making a wound roll, I'll roll 1d6 for each model in the target unit. The unit suffers a mortal wound for each result of a 6, and the attack sequence ends. At the Veil of Darkness. Once per battle in your movement phase, the bearer can use this relic. If it does, the bearer's unit and up to one friendly dynasty core unit within 3 inches of the bearer can be removed from the battlefield and set up anywhere on the battlefield. This is more than 9 inches away from enemy models. If 2 units are set up on the battlefield using this relic, both units must be placed within 6 inches of each other. That's virtually as it was, and so it's great to see Veil of Darkness pretty much remaining. Can't see any changes to that. If you do take 2 units off, that's the the model itself and the unit nearby, you've got to set them up near each other. I think that was the same before. I think. It's a deep strike. So yeah, that's remain. The Voltaic Staff. So model with a Staff of Light only. It replaces it. For shooting, it's range 18, assault 4, strength 6, -2 and 2 damage. That's really good. That's really good. And then close combat, it's +1 strength, AP -2 and 2 damage. Each time attack is made with this weapon, an unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 2 additional hits. That's assault 4 as well. Nice. The Voltaic Staff's really good. The Void Reaper next. Model with a Void Scythe or War Scythe only. This is a replacement. You get +2 strength, AP -4 and 3 damage. Each time an attack is made with this weapon, rolls that ignore wounds cannot be used. Right, so you don't feel no pains and so on. Ouch. Next, Semper Internal Weave. A lot of the old names have remained here. Infantry Noble model only. Add 1 to the toughness and wounds characteristic of the bearer. Arrow of Infinity. A model of a tachyon arrow. It replaces the tachyon arrow. And you'll get... Range 120. Assault 1. Strength 16. AP -5. And 6 damage. Pretty good. Nice. Yeah, pretty good. Okay. Conduit of Stars. Range 36. So this replaces the Relic Gauze Blaster and has the following profile. Rapid Fire 3. Strength 6. -2. 2 damage. That's nice. The Solar Staff. That's Mefrit, yeah. Now we're on to the ones that are specific now for these fixed dynasties. The Nefrek model with a Staff of Light only replaces it. Gives you Staff of Light shooting, range 24, assault 6, strength 5, -2, 1 damage. In close combat, strength for the user, AP -2 and 1 damage. Each time an attack is made with this weapon against an infantry unit, if a hit is scored until the end of that turn, that unit is blinded. Blinded units cannot fire Overwatch or set to defend. And then the Infinity Mantle. Nearlac model only. Add 1 to the armor save and throws made for the bearer. Each time the bearer would lose a wound. It's 6+ for no pain. The Blood Scythe, a Novok model with a Void Scythe and War Scythe only. This relic replaces the Void Scythe War Scythe and it's +2 strength, AP -4 and 2 damage. Each time the bearer fights, it's an additional 2 attacks. And then the Vanquisher's Mask, Sautech model only. At the start of the fight phase, you can select one enemy unit within 3 inches of the bearer. That unit is not eligible to fight this phase until after all eligible units from your army have done so. And then the Sovereign Coronal. Zarakan Noble model only. The bearer has the following abilities. Command Wave Amplifier, Aura. While a friendly Zarakan unit is within 9 inches of the bearer, that unit benefits from the selected directive of your army's active command protocol whilst within 9 inches of friendly Necron character model, excluding Catan Shard models instead of 6 inches. And then Synthetic Cortex Enhancer Aura. While a friendly Zarakan core unit is within 9 inches of the bearer, unit benefits from both directives of your army's active command protocol instead of just the one. So, some benefits there. But there's some pretty good ones in there. Some of the replacement weapons are pretty potent. Yes, there's some exciting relics. The Necrons. Okay, so we'll go on to powers of the Catan. So before the battle, generate powers of the Catan shard units for army using the table below. You can either roll 1d6 to generate each power randomly, rerolling duplicates, or you can select which powers the unit knows. If selecting powers, a power cannot be regarded for a second time until all other powers have been selected at least once by units in your army. No unit can know the same power more than once. Write down any powers of the Catan in your roster. Okay. So number 1, Antimatter Meteor. Roll 1d6, adding 1 to the roll if this Catan shard is a Tesseract Vault. On the 3 to 5, the closest enemy unit within 24 inches and visible to Catan shard suffers 3 mortal wounds. On a 6+, it's D3 plus 3 mortal wounds. Times Arrow. Select one enemy unit within 18 and visible to Catan shard. Roll 1d6, adding 1 to the roll if this Catan shard is a Tesseract Vault. If the total equals or excels the wounds characteristic of any models in the enemy unit, your opponent selects one of those models to be destroyed. Sky of Falling Stars. Select 3 enemy units within 24 inches of this Catan shard. For each of those units, roll 1d6 on a 1 to 5. If the dice result is less than the number of models in that unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. If this katana shard is a Tesseract Vault, the unit suffers 3 mortal wounds instead of d3. Cosmic Fire. Roll 1d6 for each enemy unit within 9 inches of the katana shard. On a 4+, the unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. That sounds pretty nasty. If this katana shard is a Tesseract Vault, it's 3 mortal wounds instead of d3, so nasty enough. Seismic Assault. Select one enemy unit within 18 inches of and visible to the katana shard. Roll 1d6 for each model in that unit, adding 1 to the result. If this katana shard is a Tesseract Vault, for each 6+, it's a mortal wound to a maximum of 10 mortal wounds. Then Transdimensional Thunderbolt. Select one enemy unit within 24 inches and visible to this katana shard. An enemy character unit with wounds characteristic of 9 or less cannot be selected for this power whilst it's within 3 inches of another enemy unit, unless that character unit is the closest enemy unit. Roll 1d6. On 2+, the unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. Then roll 1d6 for each other enemy unit within 3 inches of the selected unit. On a 4+, the unit suffers 1 mortal wound. If this katana shard is a Tesseract Vault, roll for each other enemy unit within 6 inches instead of 3. And then unique Catan powers. So Katana Shard of the Deceiver, Cosmic Insanity. Select one enemy unit within 12 inches of visible to the katana shard. Roll 1d6 and add this katana shard's leadership characteristic to the result. Your opponent then rolls 1d6 and adds the leadership characteristic of the selected unit to the result. The enemy unit suffers 1 mortal wound for each point by which your total exceeds your opponent's. Yeah, potentially quite nasty. Katana Shard of the Nightbringer, Gaze of Death. Select one enemy unit within 9 inches and visible to the katana shard. Roll 3d6s for each 4+. It's d3 mortal wounds. Then Katana Shard of the Void Dragon, the Voltaic Storm. Select one enemy unit within 18 inches and visible to this katana shard. An enemy character unit with a wounds characteristic of 9 or less cannot be selected for this power whilst it's within 3 inches of another enemy unit, unless the character unit is the closest visible enemy unit. Roll 1d6 on 2+, the unit suffers d3 mortal wounds. It suffers d6 mortal wounds instead if it has the vehicle keyword. Until the start of your next turn, if the unit has the vehicle characteristic change... until the start of your next turn, if the unit is a vehicle whose characteristics change as it loses wounds, then it halves the number of wounds it has remaining when determining what characteristics to use. So that's the powers of the Catan. So now you're on to match to play rules. So chapter approved rules here. For every model in your army, excluding underlined units, there's a Necrons keyword, and your warlord has the Necrons keyword. You can, if you're playing a match to play battle that instructs you to select secondary objectives, select one from the following Necron secondary objectives listed below. So, like all other secondary objectives, just the usual rules. Yeah. So, ones that are unique for the Necrons. Okay. So we have Code of Combat here. No Mercy, no Respite category. Code of Combat. Endgame objective. Score 3 victory points at the end of the battle for each enemy unit that was destroyed by Necron's noble unit from your army. Right, so using your characters to destroy enemy units. It's quite difficult, depending on what characters you're running. But interesting one. Then under Battlefield Supremacy, Purge the Vermin. Score 2 victory points at the end of your turn for each table quarter that does not have enemy units, excluding aircraft wholly within it. So you're trying to wipe out table quarters. Easier said than done. And then this objective cannot be scored in the first battle round, but yeah, maybe. Okay. And then Treasures of Aeons. If you selected this secondary objective, then after both sides have finished deploying, your opponent selects 3 objective markers on the battlefield. Score a number of victory points at the end of your turn if you control one or more of these objective markers shown in the table below. So number of objective markers you control. If you control 1, you get 2 victory points. If you control 2, you get 3. And if you control 3, you get 5. So your opponent selected 3 objectives, and then you go after them. Yeah, if you're playing aggressive and combat style and so on, the Necrons, then could be one that's worth pursuing. At the end of your turn, yeah, and you can pick them up each turn. So yeah, that was quite good. Good fun. Then Shadow Operations, Ancient Machineries. If you selected the secondary objective and after both sides have finished deploying, starting with your opponent, The players alternate selecting objective markers not within any player's deployment zones, the ancient machinery objective markers, until 3 objective markers have been selected. If there is only one such objective marker, then only that objective marker is an ancient machinery objective marker. So, Necron's core, Necron's Canoptic units from your army can attempt the following action. Awaken ancient machinery action. At the end of your movement phase, one or more Necron's core or Necron's Canoptic units from your army can start to perform this action. Each unit from that army starts to perform this action must be in range of a different ancient machinery objective marker. The unit cannot start this action whilst there are any enemy units excluding aircraft in range of the same objective marker. The action is completed at the end of your next command phase, provided the unit attempting this action is still within range of the ancient machinery objective marker. Score 3 victory points each time a unit from your army completes the awakened machinery action. Yeah, not bad that one. Very themed for Necrons, and a pretty healthy reward as well for fulfilling that. So next here is the Crusade rules. I haven't got into Crusade yet, so I will move through these. Otherwise, this video is going to be huge. It's really sort of matched play is the emphasis I'm going for. But here's your rules for Crusade. You've got agendas, requisitions, battle traits, dynastic epithets, weapon enhancements, battle scars, Crusade relics, and showcase Crusade army featured for you as well. So that's the rules that are incorporated into the Codex, like so. And there's a Crusade army. Nice. Very strong on the neon green here with that one. So then it's okay. So we've got rules here then. We'll go through these here. This is some sort of core stuff for the Necrons, some important rules for them. Alright, so dimensional translocation. Here we saw a number of opportunities where that can be used. During deployment, you can set this unit up in hyperspace instead of setting it up on the battlefield. If you do so, then in the reinforcement step, you deep strike in 9 inches away from enemy models, but more than 9 inches away. Living metal. At the start of your command phase, you regain a lost wound, pretty much as it was. And then reanimation protocols. We're looking through this on the Warhammer community page. So it has changed. The way it's done is different. There's some plus, there's some bonuses to it, there's some minuses. Be interesting to see how it works out for Necron players. Each time an enemy unit shoots or fires, after it makes its attacks, if any models in this unit were destroyed as a result of those attacks, but the unit was not destroyed itself, this unit's reanimation protocols are enacted and those destroyed models begin to reassemble. So if you want to stop reanimation protocols, you've got to wipe the unit out entirely. And if you don't, then you're getting to reanimate immediately, not waiting until later on in the turn or at the start of your own turn. So each time unit's reanimation protocols are enacted, make reanimation protocol rolls for that unit by rolling a number of d6 equal to the combined wounds characteristic of all the reassembling models. So it's now based on the number of wounds from the dead models, not the number of actual models themselves. So Necron Warriors is not going to change. You're going to roll 1d6 for each of them. But if it's like Necron Destroyers with 3 wounds, you're rolling 3d6 for reanimation. Each reanimation roll is a 5+, is put into a pool. So you separate all your 5+. Reanimation protocol roll can never be modified by more than -1 or +1. If the number of dice in that pool is greater than or equal to the wounds characteristic of any of the reassembling models, select one of those models to be reanimated. So, you've got a Cryptek Destroyer unit, 3 models, you've lost 2. Each model's got 3 wounds each, so that's going to be 6 dice. You roll them up. Let's say you get 2 6s and 2 5s. You separate those out, and then as one of those models has 3 wounds, there's enough dice in that pool with 1 spare to resurrect that model. So it's pretty good for 1 wound model units, because you're just getting 5+, the models are being instantly restored. A little bit more tricky for multiple wound models, because you're not just rolling a dice trying to get a 5+ to get that model back up. You need as many 5+ as there are wounds for that model, so it can be a bit tricky. And then it's not just like where it used to be a 5+, that model's returned to play with all of its wounds, which used to be like amazing. Now, yes, you're restoring all of the wounds, the model's getting all of its wounds, but it's all of those 5+ you're having to roll, enabling you to do that, so it's more difficult. If the number of dice in that pool is greater to or equal to the number of the wounds characteristic of any of the reassembly models, select one of those models to be reanimated. A reanimated model is added back to its unit if it's 4 wounds remaining. You can only set it up within an engagement range of enemy units that are already within engagement range of the reanimated model's unit. You cannot, if it's your charge phase, set it up closer to enemy units that are targets of a charge declared by its unit this phase. So on Overwatch, you can't take units off the back, reanimate them, because you are rolling reanimation protocols even at that point, and then stick them at the front. You're trying to creep the unit forwards before you charge in, which is fair enough. And then no unit no longer counts as having been destroyed for the purposes of morale tests this turn. Yeah, so fair enough as well. Then reduce the number of dice in that pool by the number equal to the wounds characteristic of the reanimated model, and repeat this process until either there are no more reassembly models, or the number of dice remaining in the pool is less than the wounds characteristic of any of the reassembly models. Any models that did not reanimate fail to reassemble, and any dice remaining are discarded. So it has changed. I think it's okay. And in a way it could be better, because in some way it can be better. Let's, for example, it's your shooting phase. No, it's the enemy shooting phase. You've got a unit of 20 Necron warriors. The enemy shoots down 8 of them. You then make your reanimation protocol rolls. 4 of them get back up. You then charge. Or the enemy charges you. They cut down 10. Yeah, then rolling your animation protocols again, and more models are getting back up. So it's powerful that way. We get multiple opportunities to keep resurrecting models, making them more difficult to get rid of. So it's all right. I don't think it's devastating for Necron players. I think it's all right. I think it's okay, and it's still keeping that nice dynamic for the Necrons with reanimation protocols. Of course, leave your own comments if you're an experienced Necrons player. What do you think of the rules here for this? I think it's alright. I think the Necrons will cope okay. Command protocols. If every unit from your army, excluding Dynastic Agent, Catan, Shard, and unaligned units from the same dynasty, is from the same dynasty, and you select a noble model to be your warlord, this unit is eligible to benefit from this ability, and the following rules apply. After both sides are deployed, before you have determined who will have the first turn, you must assign a different one of the command protocols below to each of the first 5 battle rounds, and note this down secretly in your army roster. Okay, it's getting it is more complicated than 8th edition was. There's a lot of layers being added on here by Games Workshop, so I feel sorry for people trying to get into 40k, and there's pages of information and extra stuff to add on, and you're only using a little bit of it. You one particular relic here and a warlord trait here, and it's a lot to take in. But now there's this whole section to add in as well. So you can keep your rule set quite simple, but if you start adding on layers of stuff to building an army, and you're adding on layers of stuff for your missions, missions have got more complicated for sure. Deployment of objectives, point scoring is way more complicated than it was. It's good fun, I enjoy it, but it's noticing lots of layers being added on. So it's increasing depth and so on, but to the point where it's sort of striking that balance here. But so what you're doing then is they're giving you an example here. Matt's army is led by an overlord, a noble, and every model in it is from the same dynasty. Therefore, he must assign command protocols. He selects the following, writing them down. So Battle Round 1, Southern Storm. Battle Round 2, Vengeful Stars. It's Battle Round 3, Undying Legions, Battle Round 4, Hungry Void, Battle Round 5+, Battle Round 5+. Okay, is 1 Eternal Guardian, so he's laid it out that way. Okay. Yeah, it's, well, see in the designer's note here, the cards that will become available, if you have a set of Necrons data cards, you can instead design your command protocols by selecting the 5 corresponding cards and you place them face down in order. So that's no big deal. Fair enough. So these are there's 6 protocols here then. I'll go through these. Okay, so Protocol of the Eternal Guardian. So directive number 1. Each time an attack is made against this unit, if it did not make a normal move, advance or fall back this battle round, it receives the benefit of light cover as described in the 40k core rulebook. So helping out command in turn 1 is pretty useful. Directive number 2, each time an enemy unit declares a charge against this unit, if this unit is not within engagement range of enemy units, it can either hold steady or set to defend. If it holds steady, then until the end of their phase, any Overwatch attacks made by models in that unit score hits on 5+ instead of 6, a bit of help for Overwatch. If it sets to defend, to the end of that phase, it cannot fire Overwatch, but until the end of the next fight phase, each time a model in that unit makes a melee attack, add 1 to the hit roll. Protocol of the Sudden Storm. Directive number 1, add an inch to the movement characteristic models in that unit. Directive number 2, if this unit is performing an action, it can still make its action and fire ranged weapons. Protocol of the Vengeful Stars. Each time model this unit makes a ranged attack, an unmodified wound roll of 6. Improve the iron penetration characteristic of the attack by 1. Quite minor really these. Directive number 2, each time model this unit makes a ranged attack, the target's unit within half range, the target does not receive the benefits of cover. So it's save and throw. They are quite minor, these. Directive so Protocol of the Hungry Void. Directive number 1, each time model this unit makes a melee attack, modified wound roll of 6, improve the iron penetration characteristic of the attack by 1. And then directive number 2, each time model this unit makes a melee attack, if this unit makes a charge move, was charged or performed heroic intervention this turn, add 1 to the strength, attack strength characteristic. Then Protocol of the Undying Legions. Each time this unit uses its living metal ability, each one on this unit gains an additional lost wound. And directive number 2, each time you make a reanimation protocol roll for this unit, you can reroll 1 of the dice. You see what I mean about sort of how minor some of these benefits are. And then Protocol of the Conquering Tyrant. Add 3 inches to the range of this unit's aura abilities to a maximum of 12 inches. Increase the range of the following abilities this unit has by 3 to a maximum of 12 inches. Lord's Will, My Will be done, and Rights of Reanimation. And directive number 2, this unit is eligible to shoot in the turn in which it fell back. But if it does, then to the end of the turn, each time model with this model in this unit makes a ranged attack, subtract 1 for the attack's hit roll. So, in my opinion, I wouldn't have put that in. I would have left that out and just kept things simpler. I don't see any need to have that command protocols. It's just another layer of complexity, and the benefits of it are pretty minor. And any decent kind of rules could be reflected in other ways through stratagems, relics, warlord traits, and so on. So I don't see the need for any of that, just to keep things a lot simpler. But it's there, and if it's in cards, you can just lay the cards out in whichever order that you want. But it's tiny benefits available with the command protocols. Right, so we're on to units next. Yeah, so what I'll do here is I'm not going to go through all of these units. I'm going to sort of focus in on the new stuff. And Games Workshop has sort of said I can't really go through. They don't really want me going through everything. They want to just sort of highlight certain parts of the codex. So I've looked at sort of the core rules. For the sake of time, I'm not going to go through all the details of all of these units here. You can look forward to that when you get your own codex. But what I will do, I think, is we'll focus in on some of the new stuff here. So, Imitek the Stormlords, Orican the Diviner, Anrikar the Traveller, Vargard, Obrion, these famous characters have remained. Illuminor Xerus, so the fantastic resculpt that Games Workshop have done I mean, just incredible. Beautiful, beautiful model. Rules are already there. I'll not go through the rules for that one. Nemazar Zendrek there as well. Trezor the Infinite as well. I really love that model. Lunar Xeris. Absolutely fantastic. So the Royal Warden, we know these from the Indomitus box set. The Scorpec Lord. The Lockhust Lord, which is your Destroyer Lord, basically. There. The regular Lord. Catacomb Command Barge as well. Now there's going to be some changes with these. I'm not skipping these because they haven't changed. They will have changed. There will be some changes. I'm noticing, having looked through some of these, weapons have become more potent. Even here the Catacomb Command Barge is 9 wounds for him. I don't think he was 9 wounds before. There's 4 attacks for him as well. So there's some improvements here for some of these units. So I'm skipping these just to focus on the new stuff. But I'm not saying there hasn't been some changes, and it looks like some improvements. The Overlord here. Overlord is 4 attacks, used to be 3 I believe. So that's an improvement as well. Right, now this is the new stuff, and this looks great. I love the idea of this. The Technomancer, the Psychomancer, the Chronomancer, and then we've seen the Plasmancer already, but we'll take a look at these 3 new models, new rules. So the Technomancer adds movement 5, weapon skill, ballistic skill 3+, strength 4, toughness 4, 4 wounds, 1 attack, leadership 10, 4 up save, power level 4, and I may as well call out points to you as well for these. For the new models, we'll give you an idea on points as well, just to give you an idea of what's going on. So the Technomancer, it's in order of how they appear in the book. Unit size 1 model, unit cost 75 points, and the Canoptic Cloak upgrade is 5 points, Canoptic Control Node is 15 points. This is the flying one actually. I'll continue on with this, but this is the plastic one that's already available, the sort of jumping one. Comes with a Staff of Light, which you could swap out for that pretty good relic. Range 18 for shooting. Assault 3, strength 5, -2, 1 damage. It's not that great. Staff of Light is strength of the user, strength 4 in close combat, AP -2 and 1 damage. It's pretty poor. So the Canoptic Cloak. The bearer has a move characteristic of 10 inches and is a fly keyword. In addition, at the end of your movement phase, you can repair one for any dynasty model within 3 inches of this model. Right, so they've corrected that bit. I was dropping him because you had to repair stuff at the start of your movement phase, which was really annoying. But it says here at the end of your movement phase, so you can manoeuvre out into position and make your repairs. So that's corrected and good. That model regains D3 lost wounds. It's for dynasty models, so you could restore wounds on pretty much anything. That's a lot more helpful. And each model can only be repaired once per turn. So those Scorpec destroyers could just repair them. Cool. And the Canoptic Control Node. Yeah, it's a dynasty model, not Canoptic. Yeah, so you can do it. The bear has the following ability: Control Node Aura. While a friendly dynasty Canoptic unit is within 6 inches of this model, each time model this unit makes an attack, add 1 to that attack hit roll. Yeah, not too bad. It's 15 points it costs you, but that could be very helpful. This model can be equipped with one of the following: Canoptic Cloak, Canoptic Control Node. Oh, you have to choose one or the other. Okay. Yeah, annoying. Okay. Living Metal, Command Protocols, Dynastic Advisors. If your armor is battle forged, then each Canoptic unit, excluding Dynastic Agents units, including in a detachment, also contains at least 1 noble unit. A second Cryptek unit, excluding Dynastic Agent units, can be included in the detachment without taking up additional battlefield role slot. And then Rites of Reanimation. In command phase, you can select 1 friendly Dynastic core unit within 6 inches of this model. 1 destroyed model from that unit is reanimated. Yeah, 1 destroyed model from that unit is reanimated. Page 80. If the selected unit is a Necron Warriors unit, D3 destroyed models from the unit are reanimated. Instead, each unit can only be selected for this ability once per phase. So, yeah, useful. It's very useful. This is a very, very useful one here. So his ability, his main focus is restoring units and reanimating stuff, and he does it really well. Some great bonuses here. Auto restore, and again, Scorpec destroyers auto restore that model. Brilliant. Yeah, brilliant. Next one, Psychomancer. So same stat line. Yep. Power level 4. The Psychomancer is 70 points. You get the Abyssal Lance. So range 18, assault 3, strength 4, -3, 1 damage, pretty tame. In close combat, strength use, open -3, 1 damage, pretty tame. Only one attack anyway, so. Living Metal Command Protocols, Dynastic Advisors, same rules as we've seen already. Harboring of Despair, in your morale phase, you can select one enemy unit within 12 inches of this model, roll 3d6. If the result is greater than the enemy unit's leadership characteristics, select one of the results opposites, take effect to the start of your next morale phase. Each unit can only be selected for this ability once per phase. So, this is the enemy unit. The selected unit cannot perform actions. If the unit is currently performing an action, it immediately fails. The selected unit loses the objective secured ability. Half advanced charge rolls made with the selected unit, that could be very useful. And the selected unit cannot fire Overwatch or set to defend, and is not eligible to fight within the fight phase until all other eligible units from your army have done so. So yeah, that could be quite useful, but the problem is it's range 12. So it's, yeah, I like the Technomancer a lot more. The Nightmare Shroud is an aura. An enemy unit within 6 inches of this model, subtract 1 for leadership characteristic models in that unit, and subtract 1 from the command attrition tests taken for that unit as well. Okay, Psychomancer is interesting, but he's there to mess up the morale and disrupt enemy units. The Chronomancer next to his cubes. Stat line's the same. No, he's not. He's movement 8 actually, so his move's a lot quicker. And we'll let you know what we got here for Chronomancer. Okay. Here's command. Here he is, Chronomancer. 80 points. No other upgrades to purchase here. So, yeah, movement 8. So, equipped with the Aeon Stave and the Chrono Tendrils. So, the Aeon Stave is range 18, assault D3, strength 5, -2, 1 damage, blast weapon. Each time an attack is made with this weapon, invuln saves cannot be taken against that attack. And then in melee, it's strength user, which is strength 4, -2, 1 damage. And again, it's no invuln saves allowed, but remember, he's only on 1 attack. Then Chrono Tendrils, strength for the user, it's in close combat, AP 0, 1 damage. Each time it fights, makes 3 additional attacks with this weapon. Okay. Okay, and then you can swap out the Aeon Stave for an Entropic Lance. The Entropic Lance will give you range 18, assault 1, strength 8, -3, D3 plus 3 damage. That's going back to, the D3 plus 3, you get a dice roll plus a number. That's going all the way back to some of the earlier editions of 40k. I remember that from 2nd edition. It's great that kind of things come back. So the Entropic Lance shooting, and in close combat it's strength use, open -3 and 3 damage, but again remember it's only 1 attack. So Living Metal Command Protocols, Dynastic Advisors, Time Splinter Mental. So you've got a 4+ invuln save for this guy, and the Chronometron. You can select, in your command phase, you can select one for any Dynasty unit within 9 inches of this model. To start your next command phase, you can re-roll charge rolls made of that unit, and models in that unit have a 5+ invuln save. Yes, things have changed around here. I'm shifting towards a Technomancer. Here, the Plasmancer, I'll not go through the rules because we've already covered that with the Indomitus set that came out, so the rules are in there for him, points, values and so on. Just there, Necron Warriors, Necron Immortals, the Canoptic Reanimator, you can check out the Indomitus rules box set, and now the Hexmark Destroyer, which is a beautiful model, very unique, strange one that they've chosen to do, it's very cool. Hexmark Destroyer. So he is around here somewhere. He's 75 points for the model. No doubt he's a character. He is. Movement 8 is pretty quick actually around the board. Power level 4. Weapon skill 3+. Ballistic skill is 2+. Absolutely fantastic. Strength 5, toughness 5. Nice and tough. 5 wounds, 4 attacks. Leadership 10, 3 up. So brilliant. And the model just is brilliant. So he's equipped with 6 disintegrator pistols. So it's pistol, so remember you can use them in close combat, pretty good. Range 18, pistol 1, strength 6, -1 on 1 damage. Living metal, command protocols, dimensional translocation, right, so you can move about the table. Wow. Oh yes, nice. Inescapable death. Each time this model makes a ranged attack, you can ignore any hit, roll, and ballistic skill modifiers. The target does not receive the benefits of cover. In addition, each time this model fires Overwatch, it scores hits on unmodified hit rolls of 2+ instead of 6. Wow. Crazy. Multi-threat eliminator. Each time an enemy model is destroyed by a ranged attack by this model's enmitic disintegrator pistols, after this model makes the rest of its attacks, it can shoot one of its enmitic disintegrator pistols an additional time. These attacks cannot generate additional attacks. And then hardwire for destruction. Each time this model makes an attack, reroll hit roll of 1. An attack. I take it as melee and shooting. So it's 2 to hit rerolling 1s. He's so useful. He's got everything. No, he's brilliant. Nice, real nice. And to see them popping and moving around the table. Yeah, brilliant. Okay, so I've got my eye on the Hexmark Destroyer. Nice. Lich Guard, Death Marks, Flayed ones. So they're 3+ weapon skill, 3 attacks. They have Flesh Hunger. Each time model in this unit makes a melee attack against an enemy non-vehicle unit, unmodified score of a 6. Roll of a 6 scores additional hits. 6s pop extra hits. And Terrifying Aura. Terrifying Foes, which is an aura, enemy unit within 3 inches, it's -2 to leadership characteristics. And the Flame Claws are AP -1. So there it is for the Flayed ones. Units of 5 to 20. Crypto Thralls, units, rules are covered. Indomitus set. Scorpec Destroyers. Canoptic Plasma Sight. I really rate this unit. They're fantastic. I really like them. New layout for codexes now. Damage table used to be off to the side is no longer. It's here. It's all in rows here for your damage brackets, and any changes are marked in red, so they're easily seen. So that's a layout change. Looks fine. Katana Shard of the Nightbringer, Katana Shard of the Void Dragon. We'll take a look at this one then. Power level 18. And, well, I don't know. I just try and be impartial. I think this model is horrible. I really don't like it. Oh boy, I don't like the model. I maybe need to see it, rotating on a platform. See it physically. Sometimes you could see photographs of a model, it doesn't do it justice. You see it rotating around and yeah, it looks really nice. But I just really don't like the look of this thing. It's just they haven't quite got this one right. But that's just my opinion. If you disagree, then by all means leave your own comments. But maybe you agree. It's obviously vastly different to the other Katana Shards here. But we'll take a look at the rules and the points value for this new model. So power level 18, 350 points. I don't think I'm going to be getting one of these. We'll see what the rules are. It's power level 18. So movement 8, weapon skill, ballistic skill 2+, strength 6, toughness 7, 9 wounds, 5 attacks, leadership 10, 3 up save. He's equipped with Spear of the Void Dragon, Canoptic Tail Blades, and you're only allowed one of these in your army. So Spear of the Void Dragon for shooting, range 12, heavy 1, strength 9, -4, d6 damage. Each time an attack is made with this weapon, if hit is scored, draw a straight line between the closest point of the model's base or hull and that of the closest model of the target unit. Make 1 wound roll against the target unit, and each other unit this line passes over. Each time an attack is made with this weapon, it is allocated to a vehicle. The attack has a damage characteristic of d3+3. So you really could cause havoc with that, but it's range 12, so it's not too bad. Canoptic Tail Blades is strength user, which is strength 6, AP -2, 1 damage. Each time the bearer fights, makes d6 additional attacks with this weapon. And then Spear of the Void Dragon in melee is +3 strength, so you're fighting at strength 9, AP -4, d6 damage. Each time an attack is made with this weapon, it's allocated against a vehicle, against d3+3 damage. Living Metal. Then it has Necrodermis. This model has a 4+ invuln save. In addition, this model cannot lose more than 3 wounds in the same phase. Any wounds that would be lost are not lost. So that's very powerful. You can only lose 3 wounds per phase. It's very, very, very powerful. And then Enslaved Star God. This model can never have a relic or warlord trait. In addition, enemy models can ignore the lookout Sir roll when selecting this model as a target of a ranged attack. Oh, so you can't hide with him. Ouch. That's very significant. Then Reality Unravels. When this model is destroyed, roll 1d6 before removing it from play. On a 4+, it explodes. Each unit within 6 inches suffers d3 mortal wounds. And then Matter Absorption. At the end of each phase, roll 1d6 for each enemy unit. For each enemy vehicle model destroyed as a result of an attack made by a model or a Catan power used by this model in this phase. For each 2+, this model regains a lost wound. Right, so he lives off destroying vehicles. It's a good theme. And then Powers of the Catan. This model knows the Voltaic Storm Catan power and one other Catan power from the Powers of Catan. Almost said Settlers of Catan. At the end of your movement phase, if this model did not advance or fall back that phase, it can use 2 of the Catan powers it knows. It cannot use the same Catan power more than once. But yes, the rules are pretty good. It's good enough for the rules, but just the model just doesn't appeal to me. It looks like a kit bash with bits taken from different Age of Sigmar models. I don't know. I don't know. We'll move on to the to the spaghetti monster. Oh, the Transcendent Catan. Okay. The Canoptic Spiders. Canoptic Scarab Swarms, which is the resculpt of the new models. The Ophidian Destroyers. So I don't think I really need to go for these too much, because really it's just the faster option of the Scorpec Destroyers. They move 10. With 3 wounds, the strength 4, toughness 4. Yeah, they're not so tough, I don't think. 3 attacks each and only 4 up save for these. So you're gaining a bit of speed, which is exceptionally useful in 9th edition. You're sacrificing a few other things. They get hardwired for destruction. Real hit rolls of 1. Get the hyperphase. They've got whipcord bodies. Each time a melee attack is made against this unit, subtract 1 from the attacker's hit roll. And then Tunneling Horrors. During deployment, you can set up this unit underground instead of setting it up on the battlefield. If you do so, then during the reinforcement step of any of the movement phases, you can set this up anywhere on the battlefield more than 9 inches away from enemy models. Yep, so useful enough with them. Yeah, so you're getting a bit more flexibility and speed with those. There's Tomb Blades here. Yeah, the Particle Beamer looks like it's changed. I think range 18 now, assault 6, strength 5, AP 0, 1 damage. It's a Dynasty unit, yeah. Twin Gauze Blaster, range 30. Interesting. Rapid Fire 2, strength 5, minus 2, 1 damage. And the Tesla Carbine. Twin Tesla Carbine is assault 4. Strength 5, AP 0, 1 damage. Each time an attack is made with this weapon, unmodified hit roll of 6 scores 2 additional hits. Yeah, so, and then similar rules to what they had before, I believe. Yep. Triarch Praetorians. Yeah, 3 attacks each for them. Strength 5, toughness 5 of these. I'm a big fan of these guys. Yeah, they can jump 10. Let's have a little look here. Pistol 2 now for the Particle Caster. Interesting. Range 12, strength 6, AP 0, 1 damage. They're still not Dynasty, obviously. And the Void Blade is an additional attack. Eesh. 3 attacks. Have they got more? 3 attacks and +1 for the Void Blade on 4 attacks each. Unit of 10, 40 attacks. Nice. And it's same strength 5, AP -3, 1 damage. Yeah, I love those Triarchs. So that's them. Canoptic Wraiths, they're on 4 attacks now. I think they were 3. Annihilation Barge, the Doomsday Ark, Lockhusk Destroyers. So the big question I have, I think it's a mistake by Games Workshop. They should have taken the opportunity to resculpt both of these. So previously, the Heavy Destroyers just came with like an upgrade pack. It's in desperate need of a resculpt, which they've done, and it looks like they've done a fantastic job. But why did they not resculpt these? Unless they plan to, unless I'm missing something. But it's the old models. So they, you know, it could have done what would have made sense. Maybe would have been to have done a box of 3 with the upgrade for the bigger gun. I thought would have made sense. But okay, slot cast heavy destroyers. Because here you can take them as you used to be able to destroy a unit, and you can take the heavy destroyer option, or you can go for separate units of them here. So really, the heavy destroyer, you get an extra wound with these now, so you get 4 wounds with these. Still have 3 up armor save, the 2 attacks, movement 8. So the Gauze cannon is range 24, heavy 3, strength 6, minus 3 d3 damage. The Gauze destructor, okay, is range 36, heavy 1, strength 10, minus 4, and 3d3 damage. Nice. And then the Enmitic Exterminator is range 36, heavy 3d3, strength 7, minus 1, 1 damage, and it's blast as well. Okay, so slot cost heavy destroyer can be replaced with 1. Gauze Destructor can be replaced with 1 Enmitic Exterminator. That Gauze Destructor though, 3d3 damage. Oof, nice. So you get repulsor platform. Models this unit do not suffer the penalty to hit rolls incurred for firing heavy weapons in the same turn at which it moved. Yep, because they're counted as infantry, so yeah, they've put that in. And you're still keeping your hardwired for destruction. Your hit rolls of 1. And the Lockcast Destroyer, cover the stats for him. All the same, cover the weapons already. So there it is, it's the rules for them. So next, the Cryptek Doomstalker. So a bit of a gun platform going on with him. That's your code for your app at the back. Interesting. And then what I'm looking for here is the Cryptek Doomstalker. We're on heavy support here. So 140 points, expensive enough. Power level 7. So you're on a damage chart here because it's starting with 12 wounds. And it's equipped with a Doomsday Blaster and Twin Gauze Flayer. Your ballistic skill is 4+. Okay, so the Doomsday Blaster then, the low power, select on the profiles below. Low power is range 24, heavy d6, strength 8, minus 2 d3 damage, and it's blast. High power is range 48, heavy d6, strength 10, minus 5 d6 damage, and it's still blast. The bearer can only make attacks with this profile if it remains stationary during its previous movement phase, but that is very tasty. Only 4+ though for your ballistic skill. And the Twin Gauze Flayer is rapid fire 2, strength 4, minus 1, 1 damage, range 24. It has a 4+ invuln save, containment field. It's tough enough, this thing. With 12 wounds, 4 up invuln. Living metal, yep. Nice. Sentinel Construct. Each time an enemy unit declares a charge against a friendly dynasty or dynasty agent unit within 6 inches of this model, unless this model is within engagement range of enemy units, this model can fire Overwatch at the charging unit as if it was also a target of that charge. Wow, cool. This is in addition to any other units that are firing Overwatch. Ah, right, so they're covering that for you. So you fire Overwatch with unit Necron Warriors, and this thing joins in. Bit of Tau stuff going on here. Yeah, but it's like a Sentinel. This is cool. You imagine these just popping up, you know, like Sentinels along your gun line. Cool. Each time, and great for sitting on top of objectives, sit still, fire, hold objectives. This time, or each time this model fires Overwatch, it makes attacks with its Doomsday Blast using the higher power profile. Yep, okay, and then explodes, 5+ explodes, 6 inches D3 mortal wounds. Yeah, Cryptek Doomstalker, pretty good actually. I like the sound of that one. Now the Doomsday, I was looking at this one earlier on. So what we got here now is the Heavy Death Ray is heavy 3, strength 12, minus 4, and D3 plus 3 damage. So it's much more potent than it used to be. And for moving a vehicle around the board, there's no minus to hit rolls. So hopefully the Doomsday will be more of an option to go for. And the Twin Tesla Destructor is now heavy 10. strength 7, AP 0, 1 damage, and any 6s to hit is 2 additional hits, so not too bad. The Knight Scythe, don't need to cover that one. The Obelisk, we'll leave that on. Tesseract Vault, we'll leave that on. The Monolith then now has 24 wounds, a resculpt for the model, and it's a fantastic job they've done. Beautiful resculpt. I'll miss the old Monolith. I still really liked it. A lot of people said it was like a sandwich toaster, but not a sandwich toaster, just a regular toaster. But this one still looks like a toaster, but a better toaster. So 6 attacks with this now, 24 wounds, movement 8. So the Monolith then is equipped with 4 Gauze Flux Arcs. I don't think they've really changed. Range 30, rapid fire 3, strength 5 -2, 1 damage. And then a Particle Whip and the Portal of Exile. So the Portal of Exile is a melee weapon, strength user, which is strength 8. Weapon skill is 6+ though. And then, but it doesn't matter here for this one. It's AP -3 and 3 damage, and each time attack is made with this weapon, it's auto hits on the target. That's wicked in close combat. Wow, you have no worries about moving that forwards. Absolutely fantastic. That's amazing. Brilliant in close combat. Right, so you can replace the Gauze Flux Arcs with 4 Death Rays. So with Death Rays, it's a heavy one, strength 9 -3 and D3 +3 damage. That is ridiculous. 4 shots at strength 9 -3 and D3 +3 damage. The Monolith is back in town, everybody. This is ridiculous. And then I was looking at the Particle Whip earlier on. It's range 36, heavy D6, strength 12, -3 and 3 damage, and it's blast. Oh boy. Yeah, it's pretty good. Yeah, really good. Okay. So, Death Descending. During deployment, you can select this model in the upper atmosphere instead of placing this. So you've got your Deep Strike ability, your Hovering. Its distance is measured to and from the hull, or its base. Explodes. And the Eternity Gate as well. Your movement phase. If this model remains stationary, then in the reinforcement step of that phase, it can summon a unit. If it does, select one dynasty coordinate for unit from your army that is in strategic reserves. Set that unit up anywhere on the battlefield that is wholly within 3 inches of this model, and not within engagement range of any enemy models. Models in this unit that are set up using this ability count as having moved distance in inches equal to their move characteristic in the movement phase. Okay, so the Monolith is definitely an option now. More wounds, more firepower, more damage. Right, okay, so we better take a look at the Silent King. So this is one of the models where Games Workshop have, the sculpt is fantastic. It's incredible. It really is a nice job here with the Silent King. So power level 23. I guess you are just paying a flat rate with him. 450 points. Monolith's 360. Oof. So, yeah, and 5 points for each Death Ray as well. So 380 points. God, that's a lot of points. So the Silent King. So he starts at movement 9. Weapon skill of 2+, ballistic skill 3+. Sorry, weapon skill and ballistic skill 2+. Strength 5, toughness 7, 16 wounds, 6 attacks, leadership 10, free up save. When he starts taking damage, drops down to movement 6 and then 4, and then his attacks drop from 6 down to 4, then down to 2. The Triarchal Menhir, movement 8, weapon skill 6+, ballistic skill 2+, strength 5, toughness 7, 5 wounds, 1 attack, leadership 10, free up save. So Zarek is equipped with Sceptre of Eternal Glory, the Staff of Stars, the Scythe of Dust. Every Triarchal Menhir is equipped with Annihilator Beam. Your army can only include 1 Silent King. Right, so the Menhir then equipped, the 2 of those are equipped with Annihilator Beams. So it's heavy 1, strength 12, AP -4, 6 damage. Pretty good. And their ballistic skills 2+. Oh boy. Then the Sceptre of Eternal Glory is Assault range 24, assault 3, strength 8, -3, 2 damage. Then the Scepter of Eternal Glory melee is +4 strength, so fighting at strength 9, AP -3, and 2 damage. Pretty good. The Staff of Stars for shooting is range 24, assault 9, strength 6, AP -2 and 1 damage. And in melee, it's strength of the user, which is strength 5, AP -2 and 1 damage. Each time the bearer fights, it makes 3 additional attacks with this weapon, and no more than 3 attacks can be made with this weapon. Okay. And then Scythe of Dust is a melee weapon, +3 strength, fighting at strength 8, AP -4, 3 damage. Each time the bearer fights, it makes 4 additional attacks with this weapon, and no more than 4 attacks can be made with this weapon. So yeah, pretty potent in close combat. Yeah, loads of attacks. And those menhirs, their firepower is fantastic. So you get Living Metal, Command Protocols, and then all these rules. 1, 2, 3, about a dozen extra rules here. So, the Noctilith Beacons. In your opponent's psychic phase, Zarek can attempt to deny 1 psychic power as if you were a psycho. So a little bit of psychic denial. Obeisance Generators. At the start of each fight phase, if there are enemy units within engagement range of Zarek, then until the end of the phase, those units cannot fight until all other eligible units have done so. Faerun of the Stars, it's an aura. While a friendly Necron's core unit or Triarch Praetorian's unit within 6 inches of Zarek, each time a ranged attack is made by a model in that unit, you can reroll the hit roll. Wow, this is the Gilliman of the Necrons here. Faerun of Blades, it's an aura ability. While a friendly Necron's core or Triarch Praetorian's unit is within 6 inches of Zarek, each time a melee attack is made by a model in that unit, you can reroll the wound roll. Nice. And then Relentless March aura. While a friendly Necron's core or Triarch Praetorian's unit within 6 inches of Zarek, each time the unit is selected to make a normal move or advance to the end of that phase, you get +1 move. Might will be done. In your command phase, you can select 1 friendly Necron's core or Triarch Praetorian's unit within 9 inches of Zarek. To the start of your next command phase, each time model that unit makes an attack, add 1 to that attack's hit roll. Each unit can only be selected for this ability once per phase. Faerun, this model can use My Will Be Done 1 additional time per turn. Voice of the Triarch. There's a lot of abilities here. Once per battle, at the start of any battle round, if Zarek is on the battlefield, he can alter your command protocols. If he does so, the command protocol you did not assign to any battle rounds before the battle becomes active for your army, so that for that battle round instead of the one you had assigned to it. And then Triarchal Menhir, whilst this unit contains any Triarchal Menhir models, it does not count as a character for the purposes of the Lookout Sir rule, and each time an attack successfully wounds this unit, that attack must be allocated to one of those models. The destruction of Triarchal Menhirs is ignored for the purposes of morale. If Zarek is ever destroyed, any remaining Triarchal Menhirs are also destroyed. So they act as bodyguards for him. Very cool. The Silent King. If your army is battle forged, Zarek must be your army's warlord. You'll receive 3 additional command points if Zarek is your warlord. Nice. And then Trans-Temporal Force Field models in this unit have a 4+ invuln save. And then Preservative Auto Torpor. If Zarek has 8 or fewer wounds remaining, it cannot make attacks with its Staff of Stars and loses the Faerun of Stars ability. If Zarek has 4 or fewer wounds remaining, it cannot make attacks with its Scythe of Dust, loses the Faerun of the Blades ability. So you and your opponent got to remember that. It's to make sure you don't get all these extras as you take damage. Then Vengeance of the Enchained. When Zarek is destroyed, roll 1d6 before removing him from play on a 4+ explodes, and each unit within 2d6 suffers d6 mortal wounds. So it's tons and tons of extra rules for him, but I'm sure you'll learn them soon enough. And he seems an all-round decent unit, and mate, what an iconic unit to have on the battlefield, this huge sculpture with the Silent King. Then we've got here Convergence of Dominions. This is a fortification for the Necrons. Wow. So you can have a big Necron thing on the board, which can be a nice focal point for your army, if you so wish. And then, even if you're not using it, perhaps you could just add them into your terrain, just have it as just not doing anything, not active, but a nice piece of terrain. Nice. So it's power level 6. And we're looking at... Oh! It's not just one. You have to take all three, I think. By the looks of it, do unit size? It is 3 models, and it costs 120 points. So you've got to take all 3 of these things here. You can't just have one. So they have 10 wounds. They're into damage brackets here, and what's affected is their ballistic skill, which starts at 3+, then drops to 4+, then 5+. So the transdimensional abductor, each model has one of these. It's range 12, assault D3, strength 4, -3 and 3 damage. Ouch. Okay, strange weapon. Living metal, command protocols, and then all these extra rules here. Convergence of dominion when this unit is set up on the battlefield. Its models do not have to be set up in unit coherency. Instead, each model must be set up wholly within 12 inches of one other model from its unit. From that point on, each model in that unit is treated as a separate unit. So this you form this 12-inch grid, triangle type thing, or a line. One other model, yes, you can string them out. Dominion protocols, it's an aura. When a friendly dynasty core unit within 6 inches of this model, add 2 to the leadership characteristic of models in this unit. So they like being near their shrine, fair enough. And then dynastic command node. While a command protocol is active in your army, friendly units in the command protocol's ability within 6 inches of this model benefit from the selected directives of the active command protocol. Okay. And then translocation protocols. Whilst there are any star stele units from your army on the battlefield, Cryptek units in your army can attempt the following action, as described in the Warhammer 40,000 core rulebook. Activate translocation protocols action. At the end of movement phase, one friendly Cryptek unit from your army that's in 3 inches of any friendly star steel units can start to perform this action. The action is completed at the end of your turn. Once completed, select one of those star steel units from your army, remove it from the battlefield. In the reinforcement step, your next movement phase, set that star steel unit back up on the battlefield anywhere that is more than 9 inches away from any models. If the battle ends and the unit's not on the battlefield, it's destroyed. So yeah, I don't think I'd bother with those, not really. No, okay, so weapons profiles, not go through all of those, we've covered sort of the main sort of newer stuff. So new codexes then, points values are laid out like this. So as big changes here, this is not an 8th edition codex, you know, an easy crossover. It's all change around here. The layout size is different, the layout's different, there's loads of new stuff being added in, a complete revamp and redo across with the stratagems as well. So a fair bit of adjustment to take place here. So this video is probably quite long, but there's just been loads to share with you, even whilst we've skipped through a good chunk of those units. But that's the review. It's been like a review, Tactica, giving you my own opinion. Leave your own comments and suggestions, or not suggestions, leave your own comments and feedback about what you've heard here in this video and the general information that's coming out here for the Necrons. My overall opinion is they seem solid enough. Nothing that seems really too over the top, I think, for the Necrons. Perhaps there's more layers being added, which I think we're going to see for all of the factions. So some more complexity being added. Perhaps the core rules remaining the same, but extra stuff on an army sort of scale being added on. And then the more complicated missions as well. It is overall making 9th edition sort of a next level up in complexity compared to 8th, which is a shame in a way. I feel sorry for the younger players coming through, not so much the younger players, but those who have less experience or trying to get into the hobby. They're met with all this information to try and absorb and use in games. But I'm sure it'll suit many, where you can customise your army now, you can really tweak it around to make it very unique for exactly what you want. But some amazing models now for the Necrons. It's a brilliant time to start collecting them. Some incredible stuff available, and now a brand new codex available for them as well. Check out gamingfigures.com for discount 40k when it's available. This will be available from them, all being well, at a discounted rate. Big thank you to Games Workshop for sending me a copy along. Keep a lookout for more reviews like this in the future. Thanks for watching, and tune in next time.